You are not what happened to you. You are not the words they called you. You are not the failures, the rejections, or the heartbreaks. You are what you decide to be right now. So listen, not because I'm speaking, but because your future self is begging you to hear this. Let me tell you something. The most powerful person in your life is you. Not your boss, not your parents, not society, you. But if you let every little thing shake you, break you, or stop you, then you've handed over your power. And trust me, that's a price you don't want to pay. People's opinions. Let's talk about that for a second. You know what's crazy? How much energy people waste worrying about what someone else thinks. How much time they spend replaying a comment, a look, a laugh that wasn't even meant for them. It's wild. It's like handing someone else the remote control to your emotions and letting them press all the buttons. Pause, play, rewind, mute. And worst of all, stop. You can't live your life like that. You just truth. Nobody tells you. People's opinions of you, they are just reflections of their own reality, not yours. What they say about you has everything to do with them and almost nothing to do with you. The person who doubts you probably doubts themselves more. The person who constantly criticizes, they're fighting battles in their own head. The one who says you can't make it, they probably gave up on their own dreams a long time ago. It's projection. That's all it is. But if you take their words as truth, if you let them stick, you start carrying their baggage as if it's your own. And let me tell you, that's a weight you do not need to bear. You ever notice how the most successful people in the world don't waste their time explaining themselves? They don't sit around trying to convince people they're worthy. They just do. They move, they work, they rise. And before you know it, the same people who once doubted them are now saying, I always believed in you. Funny how that works, right? And listen, I get it. It's human nature to want to be liked. We all want approval in some way. But here's the difference between those who succeed and those who stay stuck. Winners don't need permission to be great. They don't wait for someone to clap before they start moving. They don't sit there and think, well, if they don't believe in me, maybe I shouldn't believe in myself either. No, they keep going, with or without applause. So ask yourself, how much of your life have you lived for you? And how much have you lived trying to fit into someone else's expectations? Because let me tell you something, no matter what you do, people will talk. You can be the kindest, smartest, hardest working person in the room, and someone will still find a reason to judge. That's just how people are. But here's the key. You don't have to listen. You don't have to absorb negativity just because it's handed to you. You don't have to internalize someone else's insecurities. You don't have to change yourself to fit into a mold that was never made for you. The only validation you need, it's the one you give yourself. Now, think about this. How many dreams have been buried because someone was too afraid of what people might say? How many talents have gone undiscovered because someone let a single comment stop them? How many times have you hesitated, not because you didn't believe in yourself, but because you were afraid of how it would look to others? Be honest. How many times have you held back just to avoid judgment? And for what? For people who probably won't even remember that moment 5 minutes from now. For people who are too busy dealing with their own lives to care about yours as much as you think they do. That's the part that people don't realize. Most of the time, no one's actually thinking about you as much as you think they are. Everyone's wrapped up in their own problems, their own insecurities, their own distractions. Yet here you are holding back, dimming your own light, afraid to shine because of a passing thought in someone else's mind. And the wildest part, half of those people who made you doubt yourself, they wouldn't even have the courage to do what you're doing. The people who have the most to say are usually the ones doing the least. So why are you letting them have so much power? Why are you giving them a front row seat to your life when they don't even deserve to be in the audience? Let them talk. Let them have their opinions. Let them say whatever they want. Because at the end of the day, their words don't pay your bills. Their opinions don't build your future. Their judgment won't matter 5 years from now, but your choices will. So make the choice to keep moving, keep believing, and most importantly, keep being you. You know what hurts the most? thinking you had it all figured out only to hear a big, loud no. Thinking this was it, the opportunity, the moment, the breakthrough, and then watching it slip through your fingers like it was never meant for you in the first place. It stings. It makes you question yourself, makes you wonder, am I even good enough? Am I even meant for this and that? That's where most people give up, right there in that moment of disappointment. That's where dreams die. Not because someone wasn't talented enough, not because they weren't capable, but because they let rejection become a wall instead of a sign pointing them in a better direction. Let me tell you something. Rejection is not the end. It's not even a stop sign. It's a redirection, a detour, a push towards something bigger that you can't see yet. But most people don't see it that way. Most people take a closed door as a personal attack, like the universe is out to get them, like life is saying you're not worthy. But let me ask you, what if that rejection wasn't meant to break you? What if it was meant to save you? Think about it. How many times have you wanted something so badly, only to realize later that it wouldn't have been right for you? That relationship you cried over, only to look back and thank God it didn't work out. That job you wanted so desperately, only to end up somewhere way better. At the time, it felt like the worst thing in the world. But in hindsight, you see it. It wasn't rejection. See, life has a funny way of working. Sometimes you get exactly what you want. Other times you get exactly what you need. And there's a difference. Because what you want isn't always what's best for you. What you think is your big break might actually be a dead end in disguise. But the universe, God, fate, whatever you believe in, it knows better. It knows when to block a path that isn't meant for you. And if you don't understand that, if you don't learn to trust it, you'll spend your whole life grieving doors that were never supposed to open in the first place. And I know when you're in it, when you're staring at that rejection letter, when you're watching someone else get what you wanted, it's hard to see the bigger picture. It's hard to believe that something better is coming when all you feel is loss. But you have two choices. You can sit in your disappointment, let it consume you, let it make you bitter, or you can get up and say, all right, that wasn't my door, but I know one thing, my door is out there and I'm not stopping until I find it. That's the mindset that separates the ones who make it from the ones who don't. And listen, the most successful people in the world, the people you admire, they have one thing in common. They got told a Nokia more times than they can count. Oprah was fired from her first TV job. Steven Spielberg was rejected from film school multiple times. J.K. Rowling, her manuscript was rejected by 12 publishers before one finally said yes. Imagine if they had stopped at the first no. Imagine if they had let rejection define them. You wouldn't even know their names today. So what's the difference? Why did they keep going when most people give up? Because they understood that rejection is not failure. Rejection is proof that they tried. Rejection is proof that they wanted something enough to go for it. And instead of letting it stop them, they used it. They let it refine them, make them sharper, make them hungrier, make them unstoppable. That's what you have to do. You have to rewire your mind. Instead of seeing rejection as proof that you're not good enough, see it as proof that you're in the game. Because the only people who never get rejected are the ones who never try. The ones who play it safe. The ones who stay in their comfort zone, afraid to take a shot. But that's not you. You're here. You're listening to this because you know you're meant for more. You feel it. So stop letting rejection shake you. Stop letting it make you doubt yourself. Stop treating it like a dead end when it's just a detour. Failure. That's the word nobody wants to hear, right? The thing everyone's trying to avoid. The one thing that makes people quit, run, hide, shrink. But here's what they don't tell you. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of it. It's the price of admission. It's the test you have to pass before you get to the good part. See, most people don't fail because they're not talented or capable. They fail because the feeling of failing is too much for them. They take one loss, one mistake, one setback, and suddenly they start telling themselves stories. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I should just stop. Before they know it, they do. Not because they couldn't succeed, but because they let failure convince them they couldn't. But let's get real for a second. Who do you know? really know that made it without failing? Who do you look up to that hasn't fallen flat on their face at least once? Nobody, not a single person. You think the people at the top got there by avoiding failure? No, they got there because they didn't let failure scare them away. Because they saw it for what it really is, a lesson, a stepping stone, a setup for something greater. Think about a baby learning to walk. Do you think that baby cares how many times they fall? Do they sit there and say, wow, this walking thing isn't for me. I keep falling, so maybe I should just stop trying. No, they get up again and again until one day they're running. That's how we're supposed to be. But somewhere along the way, we start treating failure like proof that we're not good enough instead of proof that we're learning. And let me tell you something. If you're failing, that means you're trying. That means you're in the game. That means you're moving, you're learning, you're stretching yourself beyond what's comfortable. And that's where growth happens. That's where success is built. Not in perfection, not in never messing up, but in pushing through despite the setbacks. You ever heard of Thomas Edison? The guy who invented the light bulb? This man failed 1,000 times before he got it right. And you know what he said? He didn't fail 1,000 times. He just found 1,000 ways that didn't work. Imagine if he had quit on the 909th attempt. Imagine if he had said, you know what? Maybe this whole electricity thing just isn't for me. Where would we be? Sitting in the dark. And it's not just him. Michael Jordan, cut from his high school basketball team. Walt Disney, fired from a newspaper job because he lacked imagination. Oprah, told she wasn't fit for television. The list goes on and on. But what do all these people have in common? They didn't let failure define them. They used it. They let it fuel them. But most people don't do that. Most people let failure be the end of the story. They let embarrassment, fear, and self-doubt take over. And the saddest part, they never realized that success was waiting for them just past the point where they gave up. The truth is, failure isn't a stop sign. It's a checkpoint. It's life asking you, how bad do you really want this? Are you willing to fight for it? Are you willing to take the hits and keep going? Because if you are, failure won't break you. It will build you. And let me tell you something else. When you finally get there, when you finally succeed, when you finally look back at everything that almost stopped you, you're going to realize that every single failure wasn't just necessary. It was the reason you made it. Your mind is your greatest weapon, period. Not your money, not your connections, not even your talent, because none of those things matter if your mind isn't in the right place. You can have all the skill in the world, but if your thoughts are working against you, if your mindset is weak, you'll sabotage yourself before you even get started. And that's what most people don't realize. They think success is about working harder, pushing more, doing more. And yes, effort matters. But what matters more is the way you think. Because your mind, it controls everything. How you see yourself, how you see the world, how you react when things go wrong. And if you don't take care of it, if you don't train it the same way you train your body, your craft, your business, then it will turn against you. It will feed you doubt. It will tell you lies. It will convince you to settle for less than what you're capable of. See, your brain is like a computer. And just like a computer, it runs on programming. That programming comes from years of experiences, from the people around you, from the things you hear and see every day. If you've spent years hearing negativity, if you've spent years being told you're not good enough, then guess what? That's the program your brain is running on. And unless you change it, unless you reprogram it, it will keep running the same script over and over again, keeping you stuck in the same place. That's why you have to be intentional about what you feed your mind. You have to guard it like your life depends on it, because it does. You can't just wake up every day and let the world fill your head with junk. You can't scroll mindlessly through negativity. Watch failure after failure. Listen to people who don't believe in themselves and expect to stay motivated. It doesn't work like that. You have to take control. You have to choose what you let in, because what you let in determines what comes out. Think about it. You hang around 5 unmotivated people, guess who's going to be the 6th? If you spend your days listening to people who complain, who make excuses, who talk about why life is unfair, guess what? That mindset is going to rub off on you. Not because you want it to, but because that's how the mind works. It absorbs what it's surrounded by, but the good news, the opposite is also true. If you surround yourself with winners, if you fill your mind with positivity, if you train yourself to look for opportunities instead of problems, then that becomes your reality. You start seeing solutions where other people see roadblocks. You start believing in yourself even when things aren't going your way. You start carrying yourself like someone who expects to win, not just someone who hopes to. And that shift, that's everything. That's what separates the people who stay stuck from the people who make it happen. Not luck, not talent, mindset. Because no matter what you do, life is going to test you. It's going to throw challenges your way. It's going to make you question yourself. And in those moments, your mind will either push you forward or pull you back. It will either tell you you've got this, or maybe I should just quit. And the difference between those two voices, it comes down to what you've been feeding it. So if you want to be unstoppable, if you want to succeed, you've got to start treating your mind like the most valuable thing you own. You've got to feed it like you feed your body. You wouldn't put poison in your food, so why would you put poison in your thoughts? You've got to choose what you listen to, choose what you read, choose who you let speak into your life, because every single one of those choices is either making you stronger or making you weaker. There is no in between. Energy, that's what it all comes down to. The way you move, the way you think, the way you show up, it's all energy. And here's the thing most people don't realize. Your energy is your responsibility, not the world's, not your circumstances, not the people around you, yours. See, too many people walk through life like they have no control over how they feel. Like they're just waiting for something good to happen before they can feel motivated. Waiting for something exciting before they can show up with passion. Waiting for the right opportunity before they put in the effort. And because they're waiting, they never really start. They sit there saying, I don't feel like it today. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe when I'm in a better mood. Maybe when I have more time, more money, more motivation. But guess what? That moment never comes because they're looking for something external to create something that has to come from within. And the truth is, you can't afford to live like that. You can't afford to wait for motivation. Because motivation is temporary, comes and goes. One day you're fired up, ready to take on the world, and the next you don't even want to get out of bed. That's just how it is. That's human nature. But discipline, energy, that's a choice. That's something you create every single day, no matter how you feel. Look at the people who are successful, the people who get things done, the people who wake up and attack life like they were born for it. Do you think they feel like that every day? Do you think they wake up always motivated, always excited, always in the perfect mood to chase their goals? No, but here's the difference. They show up anyway. They bring the energy anyway, because they know something most people don't. Energy isn't something you have, it's something you generate. And that starts with how you treat yourself. What are you doing with your body? Are you moving? Are you eating like someone who values themselves? Are you waking up and fueling your mind with something good? Or are you rolling over and scrolling through negativity before you've even had a chance to breathe? Because let me tell you something. If you start your day on autopilot, if you let the first thing that hits your brain be stress, doubt, or distraction, then your energy is going to reflect that. And once you let that energy take over, it's hard to break out of it. That's why you have to be intentional with your energy. You have to protect it like it's your greatest asset. Because it is. The people you're around, they're either lifting you up or dragging you down. The things you watch, the conversations you have, the habits you repeat. They're either fueling your fire or putting it out. And if you don't take control, if you don't decide what kind of energy you bring to your own life, then you're leaving it in the hands of whatever randomness life throws at you. And that's no way to live. Because here's what you need to understand. Your energy is contagious. You ever walk into a room and feel the weight of someone's negativity before they even say a word? Or on the flip side, have you ever met someone whose energy is so powerful, so strong, that just being around them makes you want to do better? That's proof right there. Proof that energy speaks louder than words. And whether you realize it or not, you're putting energy out into the world every single day. So the question is, what kind of energy are you bringing? Are you walking into situations like a victim, waiting for something outside of you to fix your mood? Or are you stepping in like someone who decides how they feel, who chooses their energy, who refuses to let the world dim their light? Because that's what it takes. You don't just wake up with energy. You create it, you build it, you protect it. And once you learn how to do that, once you stop letting things outside of you dictate what's inside of you, that's when you become unstoppable. At the end of the day, it all comes down to one thing: you. Not your circumstances, not your past, not what happened to you. You, the choices you make, the way you respond, the way you decide to move forward no matter what life throws at you. Because let me tell you something, nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is going to hand you the life you want. And if you're sitting around waiting for someone to show up and push you, motivate you, fix things for you, you're going to be waiting forever. The truth is, you are responsible for your life, every single part of it. Your happiness, that's on you. Your success, that's on you. The way you react when things don't go your way, that's on you too. And I know it's easy to blame. It's easy to say, well, if only I had more support. If only I had better opportunities. If only they had given me a chance. But that kind of thinking, that will keep you stuck forever. Because the second you put responsibility in someone else's hands, you give away your power. And power is something you never give away. Not to a person, not to a situation, not to a failure. Because once you do, once you start thinking life is just happening to you, that's when you stop fighting. That's when you stop pushing. That's when you start settling for less than you deserve. And that is the fastest way to lose. Not because you weren't capable, not because you weren't good enough, but because you decided you weren't in control. But let me ask you, what if you flipped that mindset? What if instead of feeling like life was against you, you started believing that you are the one calling the shots? What if instead of saying, I can't because of this, you started saying, I will despite this? Do you know how much power that gives you? Do you know how much freedom there is in realizing that no matter what happens, you still have a choice? Because that's what it all comes down to, choice. You don't choose what happens to you. But you do choose what you do with it. You choose how you see it. You choose how you let it shape you. That choice, it's what separates the people who stay stuck from the people who rise. You ever wonder why some people go through absolute hell and come out stronger, while others go through the same thing and never recover? It's not luck, it's not chance, it's mindset. It's the belief that no matter what happens to me, I will not be broken by it. It's the refusal to let life make you bitter. It's the ability to take pain and turn it into power. And that right there, that's something you have to decide. Because nobody can do it for you. Nobody can make you see things differently. Nobody can make you get back up after life knocks you down. That has to come from inside you. That has to be a decision you make every single day. To take control, to stop blaming, to stop waiting, and to start moving. And yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's unfair. Yeah, there are going to be moments where you feel like giving up would be easier. But let me ask you, what's the alternative? Living a life where you never even tried. Looking back years from now, realizing you wasted your potential because you were too busy blaming things outside of yourself. No, that's not you. That can't be you. Because at the end of the day, you are the only person who can change your life. You are the only one who can decide that enough is enough. That today is the day you stop making excuses. That today is the day you start showing up for yourself. Not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. Because the life you want, the person you want to become, it's already waiting for you. But you have to go get it. No more waiting, no more blaming. Just action, just ownership, just power. Your story isn't over. In fact, it's just getting started. But if you let everything affect you, you'll never write the ending you want. So from this moment on, promise yourself, nothing breaks me, nothing shakes me. I am unstoppable. Now go out there and prove it.